All right, I think we've had plenty of time to get all your rules, calendars, and bills. House will come back to order. Mr. Clerk, let's ring the bell. House will come back to order. What purpose does Chairman Martin rise?
To make a motion,
State your motion.
I move that Senate Bill 204 be recommitted to rules.
Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 204 by Senator Tippins of the 37th, Sims of the 12th, Miller of the 49th, and others, being entitled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 20, the Official Code of Georgia, entitled relating to vocational, technical, and adult education.
On the gentleman's motion that Senate Bill 204 be recommitted to rules, is there objection? Is there objection? Hearing none, it is on its way back to the Rules Committee. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Resolution 84.
Senate Resolution 84 by Senator Harper the 7th, Kennedy the 18th, Ginta the 47th, Mullis the 53rd, and others. A resolution creating a joint study committee on airport infrastructure and improvements. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the chair of the House Transportation Committee, Chairman Jaspers, to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I bring for you a joint study committee on airport infrastructure and improvements. I think everyone in this room knows airports are important to the growth of our state and the continued growth of commerce. We need a comprehensive strategic plan to help develop infrastructure, and we're made a leader in this sector. You know, it's got 4 members of the Senate and 4 members of the House. And I want to point to you one interesting little way that this was determined. We need 2 people from industry that the Speaker is going to appoint, and 2 from LG. What we did in this is we said they would come from Tier 1 and Tier 4 and Tier 2 and Tier 3 counties for the different ones. So that'll make sure we're getting a broad look at the state of Georgia. I think it's very well thought out, and I look forward to your support. If there's any questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to answer them.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir.
He waves. No questions.
Thank you. Look for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Resolution 84. The ayes are 156, the nays are A. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 144.
Senate Bill 144 by Senator Tippins, the 37th, Gucci, the 51st, Cowser, the 46th, and others, be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 3, Title 8 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions for housing authorities so as to limit the ability of city housing authorities to operate outside municipal boundaries without authorization. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee, Rules Committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Earhart to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring for your consideration Senate Bill 144. Senate Bill 144 changes the definition of the area of operation for a housing authority of a city. Currently in code, a city authority's, housing authority's area of operation includes the city limits of that municipality plus 10 miles beyond those city limits. What SB 144 does is remove that clause, 10 miles beyond the city limits, and requires housing authorities to get the approval of the governing body of the area in which they are looking to do the housing development or the housing project. I will note that any housing projects that are currently in operation within that 10-mile boundary outside the city limits can continue to operate. Essentially what we're saying is we want the areas outside those municipalities to have some say in the development that goes on. Mostly this includes or involves the unincorporated portions of our county. We had a situation in Cobb County where the Marietta Housing Authority went outside the city limits, built a development that was not compliant with zoning, and did so without the consent of the county commission. So anyway, this is just kind of cleaning that up, making sure that there is some accountability here, and that the communities that are affected by these developments at least have some say-so in what is being developed there. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for any questions.
You have some questions if you care to yield.
I will.
Chair recognizes Chairman Todd Jones in room 341 for a question.
Does the lady yield?
I do.
Just for clarification, can the city remain in an unincorporated part of a county without the county's approval?
Can the city remain?
Or can the housing authority remain? I apologize. Can the housing authority remain in the unincorporated part of a county without the county's approval?
My understanding is that the housing authority exists within the city. In other words, within the city limits, the housing authority can pretty much do what they want, although it is the city governing body can determine whether or not they want that housing authority to abide by zoning or to abide by land use. So it could continue to exist, but if they want to build outside of the perimeter, outside the city limits, they would have to do so only with the approval of the governing body. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
Chair recognizes Representative Erica Thomas to your left for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes.
Can you define a housing project?
Well, it would be a development under the administration of the housing authority. Typically, they are built and constructed in areas where there is a need indicated. In fact, if you look in SB 144, let me find, it says here, provided that a resolution shall have been adopted by the governing body or other such declaring that there is a need for the city housing authority to exercise its powers within the territorial boundaries of said other city. So there is typically sort of an assessment process that's gone through there, typically with the housing authority, to determine that there actually is a need that exists for that development.
Thank you. Does the gentlelady further yield?
Yes,
Have you ever visited a housing project before?
I have.
Where?
I've visited them in Cobb County. I've done, in fact, even as a young person in my youth group, we used to do all sorts of projects and visitations and housing projects near. So yes, I have had the opportunity to visit housing projects.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the House Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to come to the well today in support of Senate Bill 144. This is about local control. We have had some issues in different areas where the Housing Authority did not believe they needed to comply with local zoning. And so our county commissioners were not able to participate in the process. So all this bill does is say that if a housing authority wants to go outside of their city boundaries, they have to get an intergovernmental agreement with that local unincorporated area. So it's a very good bill, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'm very familiar with the area because I know my district is next to Senator Tippin's district as well, and Representative Earhart, and it was quite surprising to see a 5-story building pop up without any input at all from the community. But if there are any questions, I'll take them. If not, I'll yield the well.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, I will take that.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon to your left for a question.
Thank you. Hi there, Mr. Whip. Do you yield?
I do.
The question is, it's been referenced local matters on this bill, and so why are we debating this for the entire state of Georgia if we've only discussed it for one county?
That's an excellent point. So really, it sparked from the one county because I don't think every housing authority is doing this. It was back in the 40s, I want to say, when these bills came around. And back then, the one main city would be able to develop for the whole county. And as time went on, that one city, in this case, thought that they should still be developing for the whole county. So if they were to go into, say, Kennesaw, they would get an intergovernmental agreement. The problem is that they're coming into other parts of the county without actually working with those commissioners to do it. So it would apply to the whole state because it is not just a local legislation, but it would impact any city housing authority that wants to work in the county. They would have to work with those commissioners to make sure that they were building what they deemed the necessary housing to make sure that we do have the ability to have affordable housing spread throughout the county and not just in one area. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 144. The ayes are 145, the nays are 23. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 95.
Senate Bill 95 by Senator Ginn of the 47th, Beach of the 21st, Albers of the 56th, Senator Varte of the 31st, and others, being entitled an act to amend Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to state government so as to provide conditions for meetings and public hearings to be held by teleconference in emergency conditions. This bill having referred to the Committee on Government Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee rules substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Alan Powell to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I bring to you today Senate Bill 95, and this is a bill that I had borrowed from my good friend Senator Ginn to use as a rider for the COAM upgrade bill. Section 1 deals with his original language, which doesn't mean much because we've already passed it in a proper form by Chairman Lunston's bill. So at some point, Section 1 will disappear. That was on the teleconferencing. But the meat of this gets into Section 2. And we have downgraded it considerably, but we still left a lot of the criteria in there for controlling and to be sure that things are done right in the COAM industry. Section 2 deals with adding 2 additional individuals to the lottery board. The governor will add a new person who will have experience in the COAM industry. And also the board chairman of the COAM advisory board will be put on that board. Now that rotates off every year. Section 3 creates a working rule that non-cash redemptions, that if it's legal to purchase and it's legal to redeem for, and it can't be exchanged for any cash or currency or anything like that. And it also establishes the gift cards. Section 3 further says it puts a $50 cap on the Class A machines, on the gifts that are in those, or the prizes in those. Section 4 spells out specific information that the retail owners who get licensed that they'll have to provide to be sure they're on the straight up and up. And also for the masters, they also have to provide certain other basic information and certain financial information to ensure they're in compliance with the existing law. The COAM Section 4 also does one thing that's of major importance. It puts the COAM division of the Georgia Lottery, they'll be subject to the Georgia Administrative Procedures Act. Section 5 creates the 50-50 rule that's in effect. That will be done on a quarterly basis instead of a monthly basis, and also does a carve-out for the charitable organizations from the 50-50 rule, that they've got to have been a 501c3 for at least 10 years, and this would be a charitable group such as the American Legion, VFW, or some of those type of organizations. And then last but not least, the master license holders. As I had told y'all when I brought this bill before, one of the things that we've been picking at for years is to put these gift cards into effect, because that's the one thing that takes any input or any rationale for folks who might be willing to trade out winnings on these game machines for cash. If we go to the gift cards, that takes care of that. So in replacement for doing the gift cards, the COAM master license holders have agreed to pay an extra 1% of their proceeds to the lottery. So that means that starting in July of 22, when the gift cards get fully implemented, where they're paying 5% now and the retailer pays 5%, then the master license holder, they'll pay 6% to the Georgia Lottery. I hope y'all remember the numbers that I'd given last time, was that this raises a tremendous amount of money, and it's the fastest growing revenue source for the lottery at this time. Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to answer any questions, and I would appreciate your favorable consideration.
Did you yield for questions?
I will.
Okay, you got some. Chair recognizes Chairman Houston to your right for a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to see where in here it said you named 2 members to the lottery board, or did I misunderstand you?
You did misunderstand. If you'll look on page 3, if you look on line 49 through 51.
49 to 51, I was just
Line
scanning over.
49 to 51. The governor needs, right now you have a chairperson of the COAM advisory board at the lottery. It would elevate that chairperson up to the board, but the governor gets to nominate or gets to add 1 more member to the lottery commission.
What, could I ask one more question? What percentage of the, is it the percentage of the gross profits that go to the lottery, or how is that determined?
You know, back over the history of this industry, and because of various troubles and as it progressed, all these machines are hooked up to the lottery commission through the terminals, so that any money that goes in that the lottery commission gets 10% right now, 5% from the retailer, 5% from the master holder, soon to be 6%. Not including an additional 7% taxes.
But that's 5%, I mean, 5% of what? Of the gross national product, I mean, the profits?
Of the clear, what they clear on these machines, yes.
Not, what about the payout?
payouts is taken off, and then the
So we get
the profit.
10%.
They get, the state lottery gets 10% right now of what's cleared.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Stacy Evans in the gallery to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it true that I appreciate that you and others worked really hard to add the extra % to be paid to the Lottery for Education Fund?
I hope you're grateful, and I appreciate your help.
Will you further yield?
I will.
Isn't it also true that you and I agree that these gift cards should help us clean up the paying of cash in the industry?
You're absolutely right. Even though these gift cards, it's predicted that they'll bring in more revenue because it will make it a more legitimate industry. But that is the number one issue. I'd said it last time, and I'll say it now again, that if a licensed game machine person, whether it's in the retail or otherwise, if they have the ability to do gift cards, they would absolutely be too stupid to breathe if they paid out cash, because the paying out of cash and being caught is a death knell to that business, and it subjects them to criminal prosecution and a lifetime ban from the lottery or anything else.
Will you yield for one more?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you and I on the same page that if this gift card addition is as lucrative for the industry as we all think it will be, that we will be back here very soon asking for a higher percentage for the Lottery for Education Fund?
You know, I can't answer that question. I know that a lot of the liberals in here, they want to pick the bones of anything they can. And, you know.
For the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir. Maybe one or two more, but maybe one would be better. Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Oliver to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
May I hope that you and I are on the same page about the lottery board's refusal to release reserves in a reasonable way? This bill doesn't direct the lottery board to release its 400% of reserves, does it?
No, ma'am.
Are you and I on the same page that the lottery board needs to release more of these reserves?
You know, I have no idea if we're on the same page on very many things.
But on this particular issue, don't you think that the lottery board's refusal to release money for the lottery, from the lottery to pay for Hope and pre-K is a bad decision?
I can look through this bill, but I don't believe that's in this bill. Mr. Speaker, I would certainly appreciate the favorable consideration for the members of this House, and let's move this along so that we can raise more money for the lottery and create a more secured environment around the people doing business. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 95, the ayes are 76, the nays are 89. This bill having failed to receive the requisite constitutional majority is therefore lost. What purpose does Chairman Powell rise?
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House reconsider the actions on this bill.
Chairman Powell has moved that this House reconsider its failure to give a requisite constitutional majority to Senate Bill 95. All of those in favor of reconsideration will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion that this House reconsider its action in failing to give a constitutional majority to Senate Bill 95, the ayes are 100, the nays are 62, and this House has reconsidered its action. That bill will now go back to the general calendar. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 92.
Senate Bill 92 by Senator Robertson of the 29th, Anderson of the 24th, Albers of the 56th, Mullis of the 53rd, and Payne of the 54th. Be titled Act to Amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 13 to Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating schedules, offenses, and penalties regarding the regulation of controlled substances. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Alan Powell to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me hope I'm a little bit better explaining this bill. Senate Bill 92, we had dealt with this issue earlier in the session. This was doing the licensing for the PAs and the APRNs to administer Schedule II drugs. Went to the Senate, and this is the product that came back in this form. Was it, they do approve it. It was found that one of the Schedule II drugs, the milder version, it did it for 3 days so that they can do a prescription for 3 days. Still allows it, still mandates that this has to be reported to the doctor working under that protocol, either upon immediately or within no later than 72 hours. Also continues to allow them to issue the placards for handicapped vehicles. And that, Mr. Speaker, is what it does. It was just trimmed down considerably from 5 to 3 days, and only one of the Schedule II drugs. I believe it was the Oxy, I don't know the difference in them, but one of the
Do you yield for questions?
oxycodone. Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Walensky in room 341 for a question.
Thank you. Does the chairman yield?
Yes, sir.
If I remember correctly, I could be wrong, the first bill, or is it not true the first bill allowed 5 pills, not 5 days, and is this reducing it to 3 pills or 3 days?
This allowed, the first bill said 5 days, a prescription for 5 days, and this goes to 3 days.
Thank you, Chairman.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Reeves to your left for a question.
Yes, sir.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true, Chairman Powell, that this body overwhelmingly passed this measure a few weeks ago, and that this bill continues to be something that is going to be an enormous help for rural health care in Georgia?
You're absolutely right, given that 46 states in this nation allow prescriptive rights to PAs and APRNs, and that's a far cry from what we do. Mr. Speaker, I would certainly appreciate the favorable consideration of the members, and I'll ask for their vote and step aside.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 92. The ayes are 162, the nays are 4. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 85.
Senate Bill 85 by Senator Albers, the 56th, Strickland of the 17th, Miller of the 49th, Kennedy the 18th, Hufstetler of the 52nd, and others, to be titled an act to amend Code Section 16.561 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to hazing so as to provide for an expanded definition of hazing. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Mandy Ballinger to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the Max Groover Act. Max Groover was a young man who graduated from a Catholic high school, Blessed Trinity in Roswell, Georgia. He went to LSU, and it was during a hazing incident there involving alcohol at LSU that he lost his life. His parents have now gone on a bit of a crusade to strengthen our hazing laws across the state, beginning in Louisiana and also in their home state of Georgia. The first part of it just says that it's the Max Groover Act. The second part of this bill allows for the definitions, and the third part mandates that each school have policies that facilitate the reporting and disclosure of hazing, and also it allows for a public report of hazing to be on the website. Mr. Speaker, I'll stand for any questions.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 85. The ayes are 164, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 49.
Senate Bill 49 by Senator Dixon, the 45th, Miller of the 49th, Anderson, the 24th, Gooch, the 51st, Dugan of the 30th, and others, being entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 80 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to standards and requirements for construction, alteration of buildings and other structures so as to provide procedures for alternative plan review, permitting, and inspection. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Bonner to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon I rise to present Senate Bill 49. This is a continuation of the governor's agenda to help keep Georgia's economy working during this pandemic. Under current law, builders and contractors must wait for the county or municipality to determine whether or not they can provide services within the statutory time frame before a private professional provider can be used. Under Senate Bill 49, it will allow builders and contractors to use a private professional provider for plan review or inspection immediately upon acceptance of their application, regardless of whether the county or municipality ultimately determines that they could have performed the service. This bill will shorten the timeline of being able to use a private professional provider, thus increasing the efficiency in the building process across the state. This is currently what we have in place. A builder goes to that municipality, submits their application. That municipality has 5 days to review that application and to let that contractor know whether or not they can provide that plan review. This simply allows those contractors to immediately put that municipality on notice that they'll be using a third-party provider for that plan review, and they'll still be required to pay that municipality half of that fee. It does not preclude at all those municipalities from being involved throughout the inspection process. But this will simply allow for those contractors and builders to move through that process that much faster. With that, Mr. Speaker, that's the bill. I'll stand for any questions.
You have a question or two if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
So just to clarify, under current law, you would have to go through the local municipality or government. In this case, you get to pick who inspects or who approves it. Is that correct?
Well, you are, the municipalities under the law have the ability to pre-qualify companies and providers. So you cannot bring in anyone that is not approved by that municipality. Thank you for the question.
Do you further yield?
I'll yield for one more, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Dukes in room 341 for a question.
Would the gentleman yield, please?
I will.
Michael, you said that the local building authorities will still be involved in the process.
That is correct.
I'm trying to, can you tell me what involvement would they have? You know, because typically we have the plan review, then we're going to have foundation inspections, and then rough-in inspections if it's residential, and then go through the whole litany of inspections. What, if this bill passes, what involvement would the locals have?
So the local municipality will still have the ability to reject any of the inspectors that are involved. They'll have the ability to review any of these plans if they choose, and they can show up at the job site at any point in time if they choose to do so.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? What purpose does Chairman Setzler rise?
Pursuant to Rule 133, I'd like to be recused from this vote, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 49. The ayes are 148, the nays are 15. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Resolution 102.
Senate Resolution 102 by Senator Gooch, the 51st Beach, the 21st Miller, the 49th Ginn, the 47th Jones, the 25th, and others. A resolution creating the Georgia Commission on E-Commerce and Freight Infrastructure Funding. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I bring before you the Georgia Commission on E-Commerce and Freight Infrastructure Funding. This is continuing work on this very important industry in our state. You and I depend on a thriving, productive freight and logistics industry. We created a great report in the last 2 years about what the needs are in freight and logistics. And if you don't have one, you contact my office. I'll be glad to share it with you. COVID has accelerated the growth of e-commerce, and we know we need to invest more in infrastructure. We need a professional study to determine the best course of action regarding funding and policy development. This is a joint House-Senate study committee with 4 members from the House and Senate each, and 2 members each from industry, which the folks that really know what's going on. That's our bill, Mr. Speaker. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Do you yield for questions?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that while we don't necessarily think of freight and logistics as something that might impact metropolitan areas as profoundly as our urban areas, like the district I represent in Cobb County, we have freight coming through every day on rail, on trucks, on I-75. Is it not true that the funding provided through this legislation would help commuters, residents, and businesses and make our roads safer and reduce truck traffic and the commensurate pollution throughout Georgia?
Absolutely, ma'am. Well put by a member of the Transportation Committee.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Holly up in the gallery to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield, sir?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that, as we're seeing with the expansion of the Port of Savannah, that there's plenty of job opportunities and career directives being able to, for our state to be able to take advantage of, certainly through the work of this study and the findings that have been able to, that we've agreed on?
Oh, absolutely. In the previous study we did really identified many of those needs, and now this will help determine ways to fund them and carry them through.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for being such a quick study coming on to our committee. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. Speaker, I would yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill or the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. All members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of Senate Resolution 102, the ayes are 168, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. What purpose? Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Rules Committee for an announcement.
Yes, sir. We'll probably have a Rules Committee meeting about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Or do you want it sooner?
You're the chairman.
How about 5
I just
o'clock?
work here.
I got one scheduled for 11 tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
I have one scheduled for 11 tomorrow. We'll do it at 5.
Rules Committee will be meeting at 5 o'clock in room 341. We will be in recess in the House until 5:15.